Krishna. I welcome all devotees to His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily call. Thank you all for coming. My humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome, Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We are continuing with our reading of verse 15 and 16 of chapter 12. Canto 1, entitled Birth of Emperor Parikshit. Thank you, Maharaj. Over to you. All yours now.
Haribol, that's not today's class. Haribol, that's not today's class.
Okay, Maharaj. Which verse would you like me to pull up, please?
Yeah, Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
Chapter 10. Adi Leela, chapter 10.
Okay.
Adi Leela, chapter 10.
Which verse, Maharaj?
Adi Leela, chapter 10.
This is Adi Leela chapter 10, Maharaj.
Adi Leela, chapter 10. Yeah, go down the page. Just keep going down slowly. Go to verse 15. Verse 15. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Bhada Sakta Gadadhar, Panda Goshani, Teno Lakshmi Rupa Tandra, Sama Kehanai. Gadadhar Pandit, the fourth branch, is described as an incarnation of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. No one therefore can equal him. So today is the disappearance day of Gadadhar Pandit and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I hope everybody knows that because it's a fast day today also. Hope you didn't break your fast in the morning. In the Gora Gonadeshti Pika, it is stated Sri Krishna's pleasure potency, formerly known as Vrindavaneshwari, is now personified in the form of Sri Gadadhar Pandit in the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami has pointed out that in the shape of Lakshmi, the pleasure potency of Krishna, she was formerly very dear to the Lord as Shyamasundar Vallabha. The same Shyamasundar Vallabha is now present in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as Gadadhar Pandit. Formerly as Lalita Saki, she was always devoted to Srimati Radharani. Thus, Gadadhar Pandit is simultaneously an incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Saki. In the 12th chapter of this part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a description of the descendants of the cyclic succession of Gadadhar Pandit. Is there more? I can't see. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyanarjana Salakaya Chaksundavatavuna Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhaktare Bhakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Nami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravadi Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatire Satarine. Vanchakalpatarubhescha kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaho namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're hearing a little bit about the identity of one of the members of the Panchatattva, Sri Gadadhar Pandit. He is Shakti Tattva. He appears to assist Lord Chaitanya in the Leela of Madhurya Ras in his activities as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As mentioned here, he's a combination manifestation of Srimati Radharani and the most intimate of all one of Radharani's girlfriends, Rita Saki. Subhaga, close your thing there. Subhaga.
I'm sorry, Guru Maharaj.
Close it. Close your thing. And in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, Gadadhar Pandit is very intimate with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya is actually Krishna himself, and Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani. But when Krishna appears as Krishna and he's with Radharani, Gadadhar Pandit is not present because he is Shakti Tattva. So it is a manifestation of Srimati Radharani, which is a little bit different than the manifestation of her when she appears in her full form as Srimati Radharani in Krishna's pastimes. These are intricate aspects of the tattva of relationships, which are very complex to understand. So we get a little understanding here. But in order to accompany Lord Chaitanya in his pastimes, that same Srimati Radharani appears as the manifestation of the Shakti Tattva in the form of Gadadhar Pandit. Lord Chaitanya appeared in the month of Falgun, and only a few weeks later, I think it's maybe a few weeks later, the same year, Gadadhar Pandit appeared. And their pastimes when they were small, we don't have much information of that, but as Lord Chaitanya grew, we hear some of the pastimes of Gadadhar Pandit, how they were inseparable. When Lord Chaitanya, who was Krishna himself, was playing the role of a Pandit, a Nimai Pandit, in the beginning of his Leela, he wasn't known as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor was he performing activities of the Supreme. He was a scholar, somewhat of an arrogant scholar, and very expert in logic and grammar. At one time in his sojourn in this material world, he went to Gaya, and when he went to Gaya, he met his spiritual master, Ishwar Puri. He came back. He was a completely different person. Now receiving initiation from Ishwar Puri, he was exhibiting the qualities of the devotee. And in that qualities of devotees, he would go into ecstasy when he would chant the holy names of the Lord. His mother, Sachi Mother, was bewildered by his transformation and she could not understand his ecstasy, thinking that it was just some physical ailment, and it's compared to like epilepsy. Those of you know who a little bit about epilepsy and how a person will go sometimes completely haywire in their activities due to this disease of the airs in the body. The airs shift. And because of that, this disease causes people to act very differently. And so his mother was thinking he had that disease. They called it the wind disease. And so she was bringing him to different Kavirajas. But actually, he wasn't suffering from any disease. He was just in ecstasy of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And his mother brought him to one Kaviraj and said, gave the formula you should bathe him in various herbal medicines, and that will gradually reduce and bring him back to normal. He tried all kinds of things, nothing worked. One person said he should take Shiva ghee and place it on his head and massage him with it. But of course, he didn't have any of these symptoms of disease. He was simply in ecstasy. So one time, so Mother Sachi was quite worried. What is happening to my son? And so she, one time she knew that Gadadhar Pandit was very close to him. So she wanted him to associate with Gadadhar Pandit, hoping that Gadadhar Pandit would be able to help him. And so one day when they were together, Lord Chaitanya again went into ecstasy. And he started to cry out Krishna's names in such ecstasy that he was losing his consciousness in madness. And so at one time, Gadadhar Pandit said, my dear Lord, he's Corey didn't refer to him as the Lord, but he would call him my dear Nimai. Krishna's in your heart. Just be patient. He's there, he's there, he's there. And just like when Hanuman had heard the same thing about Sita Ram being in his heart, he immediately took his powerful arms and with his nails, he ripped open his chest to want to see the Lord in his heart. So Lord Chaitanya imitating for Hanuman, he did the same thing, but Gadadhar Pandit was there to grab his hand so he would not injure himself. And he said, be patient, my Lord, be patient. Krishna is coming, Krishna is coming, Krishna. And the Lord became pacified hearing the sweet pacification words of Gadadhar Pandit. When Mother Sachi saw that, she said, oh, Gadadhar, please do not ever leave my son. Only you can control him. And so they were very intimate, very close. There are many pastimes that we don't hear about in the early days because of the sweet, intimate relationship between the two of them. But at one point, Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyas, and by the request of his mother, he had decided to go to Vrindavan. But Sachi Mata persuaded him, no, if you go to Vrindavan, we will never see you again, and that is worse than death. And so on the request of his mother, she said to him, please stay in Jagannath Puri, because Jagannath Puri and Navadvip are two houses, two rooms in the same house. And that way we will get to meet you some at different times. And the Lord, in order to please his mother, agreed and took up his residence in Jagannath Puri after taking sannyas. Gadadhar Pandit was feeling separation from the Lord, so he also left Navadvip to join Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, and they were together again. At one point, Lord Chaitanya wanted to give Gadadhar Pandit a particular deity for worship. Now, there was a beautiful deity, his name was Gopinath. And And there's a beautiful temple. It's called Tota Gopinath Temple. Around the temple, there's a garden. The word Tota means garden. So it refers to Gopinath, who was surrounded by this beautiful garden. And so the Lord gave him that deity to worship. And he was worshiping Tota Gopinath regularly. And at one point, Gadadhar Pandit decided to take what is called Kshetra Sannyas. That means one dedicates themselves in the renounced order of life to one particular place and stays there. It's also done even today, Kshetra Sannyas, but it's usually done after a person has matured in their sannyas ashram. In other words, after traveling and preaching for many years and establishing many places of worship and making devotees, they retire from the active travel, still continue to preach, but stay in one holy area of their choice. Gadadhar Pandit decided to do that. And they were together, but at one point, Lord Chaitanya wanted to go to Vrindavan. And when Gadadhar Pandit heard that, he was so much in anxiety, thinking of the separation that will come. And he said, my dear Lord, if you go to Vrindavan, what will happen to me? So I cannot bear your separation. So I will come with you. Now, Lord Chaitanya was not so pleased to hear that, because he said, Gadadhar had taken Kshetra Sannyas. So that was a vow. When one takes Kshetra Sannyas, it's a vow, and one cannot break their vow. The Lord Chaitanya said, no, how can you do that? And if I allow you to come with me, then I will be seen as a proponent of irreligious principles. So you stay, and I will return. But Gadadhar Pandit was so much overwhelmed with the thought of separation that he couldn't. At one point, Lord Chaitanya decided just to leave. And so he was walking towards the river to get into a boat and head towards Vrindavan. First, he was going to go to Kanai Nathishala by boat, and then from Kanai Nathishala, he would walk. Vrindavan, he also stopped in, where else? Stopped in Varanasi also. And so Gadadhar Pandit followed the Lord to the river, and then Mahaprabhu got into the boat. And Gadadhar Pandit was standing on the shore in anxiety the Lord was leaving. But the Lord remained somewhat neutral. He didn't show any expressions either way. He simply went into the boat, didn't even look at Gadadhar Pandit, commanded the boat ferryman to take the boat away. And then when that happened, Gadadhar Pandit fainted. And when he fainted, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there, and he picked up Gadadhar and he said, my dear Gadadhar, don't worry, the Lord, he loves you. He'll be back, just be patient, just be patient. And so the Lord traveled, and he went to Varanasi. There he met Lupa and Sanatan Goswami, and also Vallabha, the younger brother. And the Lord gave them instructions at that time. While he was there, of course, he also met Jiva Goswami, which was the son of Vedkanta Bhatt, who also had come to join Rupa and Sanatan Goswami at the time. Jiva Goswami was quite young at the time. And at one point, the Lord had to move on. And of course, Sanatan Goswami said to him, my dear Lord, I think this is not a good time for you to travel. Please do not go to Vrindavan at this time. It's not an auspicious time. This is a very important part to understand Krishna consciousness. For those of you who practice Krishna consciousness and you want to do something that is significant in Krishna consciousness, You should also understand the titi, or the auspicious time for performance of the activity, which will make the activity beneficial and successful. Just to want to do something at any time may sound very normal, but sometimes because of the time is not right, just like when we want to leave the body, we have to leave, but we want to die at a timely time, in a timely place, under auspicious circumstances. To die at any time to die untimely is not auspicious. Of course, if a devotee follows the process of Krishna consciousness and acts according to the principles of devotional service, then Krishna will arrange that auspicious moment. But if somehow or other we don't, then we may find ourselves leaving the body at an inauspicious time, and that will make it difficult for one to achieve the higher realms. So everything is done timely, just like when you want to get married, there's a TT is given, find out when are the most opportune times to perform the Vivaha Samskara. Everything is there, the priests like that. When you want to bring a child into the world, that's also there, to understand what is the most auspicious time for impregnation. All of these things are part of living in this material world. We want to act according to time. So Sanatana Goswami could understand by his spiritual power, it was not the time for the Lord to travel to Vrindavan. But the Lord listened to Sanatana Goswami, but still he decided to go anyway. And then as he was leaving Varanasi and he was traveling, at one point the Lord realized Sanatana Goswami is right. This is not the time to go. So he retracted his steps, went back to Kanai Natashala, and eventually, very soon, returned to Jagannath Puri. When he returned to Jagannath Puri, everyone was amazed to see the Lord had returned so soon. And of course, very happy at the same time. And Gadadhar Pandit also. But the Lord made a statement when he was asked, why have you returned? And he said, the Lord would not allow me to go because I committed an offense against Gadadhar Pandit. The Lord didn't commit an offense, but he wanted to show by example that to cause distress to another living being should be avoided in all circumstances. He said, because I hurt the heart, that's his exact words, I hurt the heart of Gadadhar, Lord Krishna would not allow me to go to Vrindavan. So he was teaching by example, one should never cause distress to any living entity, even the lower living entities, even the insects and even those living entities that you cannot even see. Of course, that's hard. But still, the devotee's mood is that he is always the well-wisher of all living entities and never causes distress and becomes a benefactor in the life of all living entities wherever that person goes. And so the Lord returned. And of course, after some time, they performed their pastimes together. Gadadhar was worshiping the deity. At one point, Sarup Damodar Goswami had come, and he brought some very, very fragrant, special, beautiful basmati rice for Gadadhar. And Gadadhar thought, oh, this is so wonderful. I'm going to cook this for my deity, Gopinath. And then when Lord Chaitanya comes, I will offer him the remnants. So in a very loving way, Gadadhar Pandit was very sweet-natured. He was gentle, although he was an incarnation of Radharani. His mood was not of the mood of Radharani in Vrindavan, which is somewhat contrary. His mood was more like always very obedient and loving towards Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as opposed to Radharani would be both. Sometimes she would chastise Krishna, sometimes she would not appear to when Krishna wanted her to appear, sometimes she would get angry. These are all higher levels of understanding of the loving relationship between Radha and Krishna, which cannot be understood by the conditioned souls who live in this material world. Or even great devotees cannot understand Radharani's mood of devotion. No one can understand. Even Krishna finds it difficult to understand Radharani, although he is the all-knowing supreme personality of Godhead. And therefore, he becomes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to find out more about Radharani. And so, after offering, cooking so nicely, so lovingly, so expertly, the rice and offering it to his deity, Lord Chaitanya just happened to appear and said, Gadadhar, I have understood that you have made some beautiful rice prasadam for rice offering to Gopinath, and I am here to taste the remnants. And then Gadadhar Pandit was very excited. He prepared the offering for the Lord. The Lord was tasting it, and the Lord says, oh, this rice is coming right from Vaikuntha. It was cooked by Gadadhar, tasted by Gopinath, and now I'm able to experience the ecstasy of such loving exchanges. One time, Gadadhar Pandit would like to read Bhagavatam. That was his favorite of all scriptures, and he would read it regularly. So Lord Chaitanya would sometimes appear at the house of Gadadhar Pandit just to hear Bhagavatam. And Gadadhar Pandit would read so nicely, so sweetly. And the Lord would like to hear the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. These were his two favorite pastimes. The two 5-year-old boys who were pure devotees. Of course, Prahlad was a pure devotee, but Dhruva became a pure devotee after some time. But both really were the attraction of Lord Chaitanya's heart and mind to hear these pastimes. So Gadadhar Pandit would read the whole pastime, and then the Lord would listen, and then he would say, Gadadhar, read it again. And Lord Gadadhar would start from the beginning and read the whole pastime again, and then the Lord would say, Gadadhar, read it again. And this would go on continuously. And sometimes it's mentioned by Vrindavan Das Thakur, who describes this pastime, that the Lord would ask him to read it up to 100 times, the same pastimes. And this is very important for us to understand. Sometimes we think, oh yes, I read that pastime, I want to find another pastime. But these pastimes are not like ordinary literature that we see in the material world. These are what we say dynamic, spiritually dynamic. They're unlimited. You can hear over and over and over and over again and get newer and greater realizations of the same activities by hearing them over and over and over again. So that is spiritual knowledge. That is the pastimes of the Lord. We never get tired. We can hear the same pastime over and over again, and still it becomes a relishable experience because the Lord's pastimes and the philosophy of pure devotional service is unlimitedly full of experiences, knowledge, realizations. And so, therefore, just like Lord Chaitanya would hear the pastimes of Dhruva or Prahlad over and over again, and each time he would relish higher and more understanding. At one time, Lord Chaitanya decided to end his leelas and go back to the spiritual world. This is a beautiful pastime of the Lord's Antya Leela, his disappearance. Of course, that was preceded by many of the ecstasies that he performed while he was in Jagannath Puri, especially in the Gambhira, where the Lord stayed. At one time, there was a kirtan in the temple of Tota Gopinath, and the Lord was dancing in ecstasy with all of his associates. And at one point, he disappeared from the kirtan. And then everybody started to realize, where is Lord Chaitanya? He's gone. And all of a sudden, their ecstasy dropped. And then everyone immediately understood within their heart, by the arrangement of the Lord has gone. He has left this world. And there was a sadness that is undescribable amongst the devotees. And there's that deity. The Lord went into the deity room and he merged himself into the leg of Tota Gopinath. And you can see on the leg of Gopinath, there's a mark. And the pujaris will show you that mark. In that mark is where the Lord actually entered, just to show that he and Gopinath are non-different. And he chose the deity of Gadadhar Pandit to show his love for Gadadhar Pandit by disappearing into the worshipful deity of Gadadhar. Gadadhar Pandit continued to worship his deity, but he was overwhelmed with anxiety now that Lord Chaitanya had left. Lord Chaitanya left at the age of 48, and Gadadhar was of the same age. But it is explained that as he was worshiping the deity, every day Gadadhar was aging the amount of 1 year. His body was breaking down so fast that he was becoming an old man as he was in his 40s. This was due to his unhappiness of Lord Chaitanya being gone. But he continued his deity worship. One time when he was performing his deity worship, he wanted to dress and place a crown upon the head of Gopinath. Gopinath is a tall deity. So he was reaching up, and because his body was now getting older, he found it difficult to bring the crown up to the top of the head of Gopinath, and he was struggling. And at one point, Gopinath did something. He sat down. The Lord actually sat down. And you can go and you can see today, Gopinath is in a sitting position and he's holding a flute like that. And just to show his love for his devotee, the Lord actually sat down. And after some time, of course, Gadadhar Pandit also left the world. And I believe he also, I'm not sure, there's no written records that I know of. There may be someone else may be aware of how he actually disappeared from the world. But his disappearance was due to the heartfelt love he had for Lord Chaitanya, wanting to regain his association in the spiritual world. Now, this is a little bit about Gadadhar Pandit. Today is also the disappearance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we fast for the Acharyas, especially Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is considered to be the grandfather of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. It was Bhaktivinoda Thakur that found the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya after it had been disappeared for at least 150 years. He resurrected that birthplace and again established deities. He also established deities of Gaur Gadadhar. If you go to the yoga pit there in Mayapur, you'll find one section in the back there, there's beautiful deities of Gaur Gadadhar. Those deities were worshipped by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And that's also in the mood of Madhurya Ras. Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a prolific writer. He wrote more than 100 books and articles. And Srila Prabhupada wanted us to understand more of Krishna consciousness through the writings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, one of his most important works was Jaiva Dharma, which is a complete and very detailed explanation of the whole science of bhakti, from Adao Strata, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Vritti, Nishta Ruchi, Shakti, Bhava, and Prema, all the way up, set within a dialogue type of presentation, where Guru is dialoguing with disciples, and there's a whole social environment and political activities that are going on around it. It's a very interesting book. It's full of transcendental information on the whole science of bhakti as one goes from one stage to another. And it's couched in this discussion type, which makes the reading very, very interesting. So Prabhupada wanted us to read that. He also asked us to read Chaitanya Shikshamrita, which is also another work by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And of course, he said we could read the works of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but not, Prabhupada didn't recommend us to read his guru's work, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said, if you want to get Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Saraswati, you can get it through me. Of course, devotees still read Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's books, but Prabhupada wasn't strong that we don't do it, but it was cautionary that in Bhaktisiddhanta's language, it becomes very difficult to understand. And therefore, and he, knowing that we were not very adept in spiritual knowledge, what to speak about understanding such highfalutin language that Bhaktisiddhanta used, he cautioned us to avoid that. But he did say we can read Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his teachings, his writings set the foundation for the knowledge of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. At one point, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a vision when he was looking in the area which is now known as the Yoga Pit where Lord Chaitanya. And in that, one day when he was looking out early in the morning, he saw this vision. It wasn't a dream, it was a vision. And he saw people from all of the 5 races of the world, the red race, the black race, the brown race, the white race, and the yellow race, all holding hands and dancing together, chanting Jai Sachi Nandana, Jai Sachi Nandana, glorifying Lord Chaitanya. So he could understand that someday, and he also predicted a great personality would appear in this world and will take Lord Chaitanya's teachings around the world. And of course, that prediction held true. In 1896, a great soul appeared in this world, and he became the spiritual master of what is now known as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And his teachings are the foundation for pure devotional service as given by the Acharyas and taught by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In 1896, that same year, Lord Bhaktivinoda Thakur finished a book called The Life and Precepts of Lord Chaitanya. And it's a small book, about 96 pages. He took that book and made copies of it and sent it to many of the major universities in different parts of the world. That same book was found by the devotees of ISKCON in the McGill University in Canada and shown to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was so happy to find that book. And then Prabhupada told us, yes, that book appeared the same year that he appeared on it. So it's very significant how the Lord works, that the same year that the person who would teach the principles of the book and the book appear together to show that actually Srila Prabhupada is a pure representative of the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Radha and Krishna in one manifestation of incarnation. So we have we connect a lot with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Many of his songs, his writings are very much part of our daily worship. His prayers, Sarira Vidyaja, for taking prasadam. His Gaur Arti song we sing. His song just prior to beginning the classes on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The prayers, what is how does that go? My mind has forgotten all of a sudden that beautiful prayer that we sing before class every day.
Dear Radha Madhav,
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallava Giri Varadari Yasoda Nandana Raja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari. That's a beautiful song. Srila Prabhupada has commented on this song. It is the manifestation of the complete understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Sri Vrindavan Dham. That song is so complete in pure Vrindavan description. Yeah. And of course, there's other songs. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has comprised many songs, many writings. He is a very big part, but his main contribution is that he brought about and predicted the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He appeared at a time when Lord Chaitanya's teachings were still somewhat obscure and were being altered and doctored up by people who were not authorized. They were called Sahajiyas or Mayavadis. And some of them were claiming to be descendants of Lord Chaitanya or Lord Nityananda, but actually they had no connection. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur fought very valiantly in order to reestablish the true teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and he had to face many of these oppositions. He did it through his writings. He did it also in many other ways. The beautiful story of how he destroyed this false incarnation that appeared in India named Vishikashena, who claimed to be an incarnation of Mahavishnu, who came to free India from the British rule. Bhaktivinoda Thakur took up the service on the request of the British to control this person. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur could understand it. He was a charlatan. He had no claim to anything of the divinity. He was simply using his powers. He was a mystic. He had some mystic powers to attract young girls, and in a very sensual way, tried to imitate Krishna's pastimes. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was able to arrest him, and then ultimately, after being arrested, he died in jail. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a fighter for true religious principles. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then followed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and then followed by our Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. These three represent the foundation for the knowledge and the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the world. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the essential principle that brought it all about. After it had been lost for many, many years, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya. So we honor him today, as today is his disappearance day, and also Gadadhar Pandit, appearance and disappearance. Out of the two, disappearance is given more attention than appearance, because when someone disappears, that means they have already established their mission, and therefore they leave that mission as a legacy for all of us to benefit from. So in the same way, we can benefit from by hearing about, reading about, and understanding more and more about the life of these three great personalities. You study Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and Srila Prabhupada, their teachings, their preachings, their works, you will know the whole science of bhakti completely and perfectly. Almost perfectly, but bhakti is unlimited, as Srimati Radharani is. But we can know it to a point of attaining pure devotional service. Okay, so we'll conclude here.
Thank you, Maharaj. What an absorbing narration of these beautiful pastimes of Gadadhar Pandit, Lord Chaitanya, and the great soul that was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Dear devotees, please feel free to raise your hand and go ahead and ask questions. Or if you have some realizations, please feel free to share those too. And if you're unable to actually ask the questions, you may go ahead and leave the question typed up in the chat window, and we can ask that for you. Yes, Kalipatji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class. Please forgive me, but in my calendar, it says it's tomorrow. Is it right?
I'm in the US and you're in Europe, so that may be true.
Okay, so that it's okay that I didn't do my fasting today, then I do it, yes, tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm in the US. I'm following the US calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it is tomorrow for Europe as well as India. It is for us tomorrow.
Okay.
So Maharaj, while devotees are waiting to ask questions, he said something very significant about great souls leaving a legacy for us. How can we ensure that this legacy is honored and properly maintained?
It's interesting you asked that question because we're here in Chicago and we're having a 4-day festival in honor of the appearance of Kishore Kishori in Chicago, the presiding deities that were installed by Srila Prabhupada 50 years ago. And the theme topic that is the principal topic of this whole 4-day event is carrying on Srila Prabhupada's legacy. How to keep that, how to keep that legacy moving and let it grow and develop even more. Now, the first thing is to know it, and the second thing is to live it. But one of the elements of the legacy is sacrifice. That if, in order to keep this very valuable legacy alive, we see that it took great sacrifice to start it, and it took great sacrifice to maintain it. And it will take great sacrifice to keep it alive and also propagate it even more. The sacrifice is the principle of bhakti. That means austerity, accepting some difficulties, some inconvenience in order to perform devotional service. So those who really want to make a difference, you have to sacrifice. You have to give up what you like and do what Krishna wants. And do it with enthusiasm. Srila Prabhupada sacrificed everything to give us this, treasure of pure bhakti coming from Lord Chaitanya. He undergone a lot of physical sacrifice, everything. He left everything behind and went on an arduous journey across an ocean, experiencing heart attacks and so many other difficulties in the strange land with so many reverses and everything, and many of the things he did. But he simply accepted that as part of his mission. So if we want to really make a difference in keeping that a legacy alive, that principle is foundational, that it takes sacrifice. It's not something we just do when we feel like it. And the austerities are there. Ways of sacrificing are there. The greatest sacrifice is to every day chant 16 rounds on beads without fail and to follow the four-righted principle. Another sacrifice is to think of ways to, or become part of programs that are used to reach out to the conditioned souls. Preach. Everyone can do something in that regard according to whatever Krishna has given you. He's given us your intelligence. He's given you the ability to speak. He's given you some opulences, some of your wealth, and he's given you your whole life. These four things are ways that we can serve the Lord. So you want to be comfortable and Krishna conscious at the same time, you'll find that these two things don't go hand in hand. The comfort comes from the satisfaction that we get in devotional service. But if we're looking for material comfort, material security, there's no such thing. The material world doesn't allow that. And those who look for it will only find themselves frustrated. So a devotee doesn't think about, well, I have to make a comfortable position for myself, and then maybe I can do something for Krishna. Devotee thinks, whatever Krishna's given me at my particular time, let me see how I can use it in Krishna's service. Let me see how I can reach out to the conditioned souls and find ways to bring them closer and closer.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for a very nice explanation of trying to do something for Srila Prabhupada by giving up our own comforts in order to preserve, maintain, as well as expand this mission of Krishna consciousness. I can only pray that we take your words seriously. Vrindavatnath Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, why do we see more prominence of Krishna Balram, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, in Gauranga pastime than Krishna and Radharani in terms of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar Pandit.
Why do we see more prominence of Krishna Balaram?
Yes, like in every Leela, like when it's a Sitaram normally is like the center of the whole pastime. Radha Krishna is the center of the Radha Krishna pastime. In this Gauranga Leela, it's mostly like we all like just behind Gauranga Nityananda. So like it's not Gauranga and Gadadhar like in that way.
Yeah, it's not so much Gaur Gadadhar, it's more Krishna Balaram or Gaur Nitai, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm. Because the relationship between Lord Chaitanya and Gadadhar is on the Madhurya level. The preaching mood is more with Gaur, Nitai Gaur. The Lord came to preach. Nityananda represents Balaram, who is the original spiritual master, who teaches the process of pure devotional service. And Lord Chaitanya is actually the goal of that same process. Brajendra Nandana Ye Sachi Sutta Hoilo Se Balaram Hoilo Nitai. So as they've come to wake up the conditioned souls by spreading this mission, there is Guru and there is Gaur together. And where the Leelas with Gadadhar are more intimate and personal with the Lord Chaitanya. And that was prominent more in the Antya Leela, in the Madhya Leela, which is the biggest part of Lord Chaitanya's activity, is where the preaching is found.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I think it's really, useful, very useful.
Yeah, Rishabh Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble request. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much, especially for this point about preaching and actually being a part of the legacy of Srila Prabhupada. It actually just gives us more thrill to do it as more as possible. I have a question regarding the TTs, as how important the TTs are when we are kind of starting some projects as well for Krishna consciousness, and how can we determine the TTs?
How important is deities?
The TTs. You said the times of starting the thing.
Oh, TTs. TTs.
Yes.
Yeah. They have some significance. For travel, TT is important. For beginning a project, TT will make it important. These, certain events that we perform, initiation helps also. TTs help in initiation. Marriages especially are focused on TTs. People do not get married unless it's auspicious according to the TT. So yeah, they're significant. I mean, like, if you want to get into the more subtle aspects, just like it says, one should not travel on Thursday, particularly between the hours of 4 and 6 p.m. A little inauspicious. But Srila Prabhupada, in order to keep preaching, what he would do, on Wednesday night, he would take his shoes and point it in the direction the next day on Thursday, to indicate that he was leaving on Wednesday. So yeah, there's a whole book about TPs, omens. But Somebody has got their thing open now. Where is that coming from?
Vrisha Prabhu, can you please mute yourself? I think there's background traffic noise. Thank you.
That's okay. He's all right now. Yeah. This, these things are, but if you're chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then you're above all of this all. Yeah. If you're chanting, then that's, everything becomes auspicious when you chant. But still, Prabhupada took advice from astrologers sometimes when to do something and when not to do something. Opening up temples, all of these things have some element of auspiciousness in when followed like that. But don't get overly concerned about these things and just don't do anything unless everything appears to be auspicious, because pure devotional service is transcendental to everything.
I also see that lots of projects, when they were doing some vastu, where they were doing some of these things as much as possible, of course, not like over endeavoring, they got better results because of until we come to the pure level, we are conditioned, and all of these things from the Vedic times really help us to kind of be more in the mode of goodness than, fighting all the time, and not moving ourselves nor the projects. So is there any like easy guidelines of how to determine the tithes, or astrologers like professionals have to do it?
Yeah, astrologers. Bona fide astrologers, not just anybody.
You will have to recommend some.
That's another thing.
Okay.
I'm reading from the Bhagavatam here. A man's destiny is therefore ascertained by the birth time and constellation of stars, and factual horoscope is made by a learned astrologer. It is a great science. Misuse of the science does not make it useless. Does not make it useless. Maharaj Parikshit, the personality, or even the personality of Godhead, appear in certain constellation of good stars, and thus influence is exerted upon the body, thus born at an auspicious moment. The most auspicious constellation of stars takes place during the appearance of the Lord in this world. And you read that also. All the stars are lined up. So all of it's based on astrology. But Prabhupada says here, but it's made by a learned astrologer, not just anyone, and a factual horoscope, not just anybody who puts out their sign and says, I'm an astrologer. To find a good astrologer is just as hard as getting the right predictions also. It's not easy to find a good astrologer or a bona fide astrologer. That's also in degree. Anyway, don't worry about that. Just chant Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a very nice question, Vrisha Prabhu. And Maharaj, we have Namrata's question in the chat. She says, in one of His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's lecture, she heard about Chandrakanta, who was a partial expansion of Radharani. For some reason, she went to Gandharva Lok and is playing a role in Chaitanya Leela as part of Gadadhar Pandit. There wasn't much detail about that in that lecture. If you can please share something about that.
I don't know anything about it. Zero. Sorry, I don't know anything. I didn't hear the lecture, nor do I know of any reference about that. I'm not saying it's not true, I just don't know. It's not in Prabhupada's books that I know. It might be from and other Puranas. Also.
Okay. And Vrindavanath has answered the question about Tithi. Tithi means auspicious date and time for you, Scarlet Mataji. Any other questions, comments, realizations? We are 10 minutes over the hour. Maharaj, how are you in terms of time? Please maybe know.
Yeah, let's, I think it's about time we conclude here and let everyone go on to the next thing. So we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much.
If I may quickly make a short announcement about the retreat, if devotees will kindly stay online, I have been asked to announce about His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's Govardhan Eco Valley Village Retreat that takes place November 29th to December 7th. Maharaj will be speaking on the Vrindavan pastimes of Krishna, and all of you are most welcome to visit this internationally acclaimed eco-village project, which is environmentally sustainable and is actually a role model for future farm communities. If you have any questions, please get in touch with the retreat team, and we would love to see you all in Govardhan Eco-Village. Please feel welcome.
Tell them how to get in touch with the retreat team.
You may, okay, let me read out the.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Actually, there is a registration link which is sent in the conference email to everyone. We can share it again in the WhatsApp groups. And the registration time is extended to 1 more week. I think by next weekend, they can register. So that's what Ekta Mataji told me. Yes. Yes, Kumar.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj, for a very absorbing class today. We humbly take your leave to end this call, and we pray to see you again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for today.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to your
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Glory
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Gurudev.
Dear devotees,